dirt road to Eldridge House stretched like a scar across the rolling fields of upstate New York, its gravel crunching under my tires as I drove deeper into solitude. 3 hours from the city, the clamor of urban life had faded, replaced by an oppressive quiet broken only by the wind hissing through dying grass. I'd spent years saving for this. A home of my own, far from neighbors, a sanctuary of silence. Eldridge House, as the realtor named it, loomed at the road's end, its weathered clapboard siding peeling like blistered skin, its windows clouded with age, their panes reflecting the bruised October sky in fractured glints. The house was old, built in 1897 if the deed was accurate, but affordable, isolated, and, to my city-weary eyes, perfect. The distant forest smudged the horizon, and the vast sky above seemed too watchful, its clouds curling like fingers poised to grasp. I parked, the engine's hum dying, and stepped out, the air sharp with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Inside, the house exhaled a musty breath, its air heavy with the tang of old wood and neglect. The living room's floorboards groaned under my weight, their varnish long worn to a dull sheen, and boxes from the move cluttered every corner, mingling with the previous owner's detritus. Chipped porcelain plates, faded curtains, a child's toy truck with one wheel missing. I spent the day unpacking, the work grounding me, though the house resisted familiarity. Its walls, stained with faint watermarks, seemed to lean inward, and the windows rattled in their frames, as if straining against an unseen pressure. By evening, a rainstorm rolled in, the kind that turns the world to static, its thunder rattling the roof like a warning. The power flickered, then failed, plunging the house into darkness. I lit candles, their flames trembling in the drafty living room, casting shadows that danced across the peeling wallpaper. Settling on the sagging couch with a book, I tried to ignore the storm's howl, the branches scraping the roof like desperate fingernails. The words on the page blurred under the dim glow, my eyes heavy with the day's labor. But when I blew out the candles to head to bed, they sputtered back to life, their wicks flaring as if kissed by an unseen breath. I froze, my pulse a drumbeat in my ears, staring at the flames that burned too steadily, their light casting my shadow in warped, elongated shapes. A draft, I told myself, though the air felt still, thick with the scent of wax and something sharper. Damp earth like a grave freshly turned. I blew them out again, harder, and they stayed dark. But the silence that followed was wrong, as if the house held its breath. In my bedroom, the darkness pressed against my eyes, the storm's roar muffled by the walls. I lay beneath the covers, the mattress creaking under my weight, and tried to sleep. Then came the footsteps, slow, deliberate, pacing outside my door. Not the skitter of a raccoon or the creak of settling wood, but the measured tread of something with intent. Each step a heavy thud that vibrated through the floor. My breath caught, my body rigid. As the pacing continued, back and forth, stopping only when I flung open the door, the hallway yawning empty before me. The floorboards were cold under my bare feet, the air heavy with a silence that seemed to mock my fear. Stress, I reasoned, the move, the storm, the isolation playing tricks. But as I returned to bed, the air shifted, as if the house had exhaled, its shadows lingering too long in the corners. Sleep came fitfully, haunted by the echo of those steps. Morning brought weak sunlight, filtering through the grimy windows to cast pale rectangles across the living room's warped floor. The house felt less hostile in daylight, though no less strange, its creaks and groans now merely the complaints of age. I decided to claim the space by cleaning, tackling one room at a time to impose order on the chaos of unpacked boxes and abandoned relics. The basement, with its damp chill and faint mildew scent, seemed a logical start, though each descent down its creaking stairs tightened my chest, an instinctive unease I couldn't shake. The basement was a cavern of neglect, its concrete walls stained with watermarks that bled like old wounds, its air thick with the musty tang of forgotten things. Cardboard boxes sagged in corners, their contents spilling like entrails. Rusted tools, yellowed magazines from the 1970s, a porcelain doll with one eye missing, its gaze unsettlingly vacant. I spent hours sorting, the work grounding me, though the space never felt welcoming. The single bulb overhead flickered, casting shadows that seemed to shift when I wasn't looking, their edges too sharp, too deliberate. By late afternoon, my attention turned to the floor, where an old rug lay in one corner, its edges frayed, its once vibrant pattern obscured by decades of grime. It covered wooden planks that didn't quite align, their gaps suggesting a hasty attempt to conceal something beneath. My fingers brushed the rug's coarse fabric, a prickle of unease crawling up my spine. The house was old. Oddities were expected. Uneven floors, hidden storage. But the rug's placement felt deliberate, secretive, as if guarding a truth the house didn't want revealed. I pulled it back, the fabric heavy with dust, revealing a trapdoor, its wooden surface scarred with scratches, its rusted hinges glinting faintly in the bulb's weak light. The planks groaned as I lifted it, dust swirling like specters, and a musty breath wafted upward, carrying the scent of mildew and something sweeter, like rotting fruit left to fester in the sun. My heart raced, not from excitement but from a sudden, inexplicable dread, as if the house itself were whispering a warning to turn back. Beneath the trapdoor, a staircase descended into darkness, its wooden steps sagging under decades of neglect, their edges worn smooth by unseen feet. I retrieved a flashlight from a box, its beam cutting through the gloom, and took a deep breath, the air tasting of earth and decay. "It's just a basement," I muttered, the words hollow against the silence. The house had been sealed for years. No one could be down there. Yet the darkness seemed to tighten around me with each step, the cold seeping into my bones, the flashlight's beam trembling in my grip. The stairs ended abruptly, my foot meeting flat ground where another step should have been, and I stumbled, nearly dropping the light, my breath visible in the frigid air. Before me stood another trapdoor, this one newer, its wood smoother, its hinges gleaming faintly, as if added long after the house's construction. My pulse thundered as I pushed it open, a gust of wind rushing upward, cold and sharp, like the breath of a cavern stretching far beneath the earth. I stepped through, closing the door behind me, the thud echoing in the blackness, a sound that felt final, like a gate sealing shut. The flashlight revealed a network of tunnels, their concrete walls snaking into the distance, their surfaces etched with strange, looping symbols that seemed to writhe in the light, their curves alien and hypnotic. Antique furniture, tables, chairs, a cracked mirror, stood scattered, layered with dust so thick it seemed to cloak them in mourning. The air was damp, heavy with mildew and that sickly sweet rot, and the silence was oppressive, broken only by the faint drip of water somewhere deep within, each drop a heartbeat in the dark. I snapped photos with my phone, the symbols' incomprehensible patterns baffling me, their lines curling like tendrils reaching for the light. Who had carved them? Why leave furniture in a place like this, abandoned mid-use, as if their owners had fled in haste? The tunnels felt infinite, their paths twisting illogically, as if defying the earth's geometry, sloping downward in ways that suggested depths no rural basement should reach. A shiver ran through me, not from cold but from a sudden certainty that I wasn't alone. The hair on my neck stood, my skin prickling with the weight of unseen eyes, a sensation so visceral I spun, expecting a figure in the shadows. Nothing, just the tunnels, their walls closing in, the symbols glowing faintly, as if alive. I wanted to flee, to seal the trapdoor and pretend I'd seen nothing but curiosity. My writer's curse, the need to unravel stories, urged me forward. I chose a tunnel, its walls narrowing as it descended, the air growing colder, the sweet rot stronger, clogging my throat. The symbols grew denser, their glow pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat, and the floor grew uneven, strewn with loose stones that crunched underfoot. Each step felt like a transgression, as if I were trespassing in a place not meant for the living. Yet I pressed on, the flashlight's beam my only anchor in the dark. 20 minutes later, the tunnel opened into a chamber, its ceiling low and rough with unpolished stone, its walls jagged as if hewn by crude tools. Unlike the main tunnels, this room felt lived in, its dust disturbed, its furniture arranged with purpose. A large wooden table dominated the center, surrounded by 6 chairs, their upholstery frayed but intact, suggesting use not centuries but decades old. 2 plush armchairs faced each other across a small coffee table in one corner, their fabric stained but oddly pristine, as if awaiting occupants. A cracked mirror hung on one wall, its surface warped, reflecting the room in distorted fragments. My own face a smeared parody in its glass. The air was stifling, the silence so thick it pressed against my eardrums, a weight that made my ears ring. I swept the flashlight around, the beam catching glints of polished wood, the table's surface scarred with faint carvings. More symbols, smaller but identical to those on the walls. The room felt like a stage, set for a meeting that never happened, or perhaps one that was yet to come. My skin prickled, the sensation of being watched growing sharper, as if the mirror's warped glass held eyes I couldn't see. A whisper broke the silence, soft and indistinct, like leaves rustling in a breeze that didn't exist. "Hello," I called, my voice louder than intended, echoing back in a way that felt mocking, the sound swallowed by the walls. No answer, but the whispers grew, coming from all directions, overlapping in a chorus of murmurs I couldn't decipher. Words, or perhaps names, their cadence rhythmic, almost ritualistic. My heart pounded, sweat beating on my forehead despite the chill, and the air seemed to thicken, pressing against my chest. I spun, the flashlight's beam slicing through the dark, catching nothing but furniture and symbols. Yet the whispers persisted, now closer, as if spoken just behind my ear. "Jordan?" a voice murmured, faint but unmistakable, my name curling through the air like smoke. I froze, my breath hitching, the flashlight trembling in my grip. "Who's there?" I demanded, my voice cracking, but the only response was more whispers, a cacophony of voices overlapping, some pleading, others mocking, all calling my name. The sensation of being watched intensified, as if the room itself were studying me, its walls alive with intent. Something moved in my peripheral vision. A shadow, fleeting but deliberate, tall and uneven, its edges frayed like torn cloth. A terrified yelp tore from my throat, and I ran, not looking back, the flashlight's beam bouncing wildly as I retraced my steps, the whispers chasing me, fading only when I reached the basement. Back in the house, I collapsed against the trapdoor, my chest heaving, the flashlight clutched like a talisman. The living room was dark, the storm clouds returning to blot out the sun, and I scrambled to my laptop, its glow a lifeline. I searched for Eldridge House, tunnels, upstate New York underground structures, but found nothing, no records of subterranean systems, no mention of past owners beyond a 1897 census listing a Mackenzie family in the area, likely the house's builders. The name Mackenzie meant nothing, a dead end in a sea of dead ends. I scoured forums, historical archives, even local legends, but the house was a ghost, its secrets buried deeper than the tunnels. The absence of information gnawed at me, amplifying the house's secrecy, its silence a challenge to my curiosity. I went to bed, the trapdoor's image burned into my mind, the whispers lingering like a half-remembered dream. The house creaked around me, its groans no longer innocent, each sound a reminder of the hollow beneath. Sleep came in fragments, broken by the memory of my name spoken in the dark, the shadow that had moved too quickly to be nothing, the second descent and the night sounds. The next morning, curiosity overpowered fear, a writer's compulsion to unravel the unknown. I skipped work, the outside world irrelevant against the mystery under my feet. Armed with a stronger flashlight, candles, matches, a notebook, and a crowbar for protection, I descended again, the trapdoor's hinges groaning as if reluctant to yield. The tunnels were unchanged, their symbols still incomprehensible, their furniture frozen in time, the air heavy with mildew and that sickly sweet rot. I sketched the main paths, noting their illogical twists, the way they descended beyond what should be possible for a rural basement, as if carved by hands that cared little for physics. The symbols glowed brighter, their light pulsing faintly, and the air grew colder, my breath visible in the flashlight's beam. each exhale a fleeting cloud in the dark. I mapped 3 main tunnels, each branching into smaller passages, their walls narrowing, their ceilings lowering, the symbols denser with every step. The sweet rot grew stronger, clogging my throat, and the silence was broken by occasional drips, each one a heartbeat in the void. I felt the house above me, its weight pressing down, yet the tunnels seemed to stretch beyond its foundation, into depths that defied reason. A faint scratching sound echoed from one passage, too rhythmic for water, too deliberate for wind. I hesitated, the crowbar heavy in my hand, but pressed on, driven by a need to know, to document, to make sense of the impossible. That night, sounds woke me, scratching, like claws on wood, emanating from the basement. The noise was too loud for rats, too persistent, followed by thumps, as if something heavy climbed the stairs, each step a deliberate announcement. I lay frozen, the covers pulled tight, my heart racing as the sounds grew closer, then stopped abruptly, replaced by a silence that felt alive, expectant. I didn't investigate, fear pinning me to the bed, the crowbar useless against the unknown. Sleep eluded me, the house's creaks now sinister, as if it were speaking in a language I couldn't yet understand. Its words carried on the wind that rattled the windows. Morning brought a bleary resolve. I gathered more tools, a hammer, extra batteries, and returned to the tunnels, the trapdoors grown now familiar, though no less ominous. The air was heavier, the symbols glow brighter, as if reacting to my presence, their light casting eerie patterns on the walls. I chose a new tunnel, narrower and lower, its ceiling forcing me to hunch, its walls so close they seemed to pulse, the concrete warm to the touch, as if alive. The air grew hot, stale, my breath shallow, my heart a frantic drum in my chest. The tunnel twisted, its path spiraling downward, the symbols now so dense they seemed to writhe, their glow a sickly green that made my eyes ache. The tunnel opened into a small chamber, its ceiling jagged with stalactites, their tips glistening with moisture, its floor littered with artifacts. Clay urns etched with runes, bone fragments from creatures long extinct, stone tools shaped for hands not quite human, and mirrors. Dozens of them, some shattered on the floor, others hung on hooks, their surfaces warped, distorting my reflection into grotesque parodies. I tested the mirrors, each twisting my face. Eyes too close, then too far, my features melting like wax, my nose elongating, my mouth stretching into a rictus grin. The effect was dizzying, nauseating, as if the mirrors reflected not me but versions of me, warped by some alien gaze. One mirror, cleaner than the rest, its surface gleaming despite the dust, drew my attention. I held it up, my reflection normal at first, then shifting, the glass rippling like water. A tall man appeared, his beard black and matted, his robes tattered burlap, his body emaciated, his eyes bloodshot, red veins Krisnova. The narrative continues, but due to the character limit, I'll summarize the remaining sections to ensure the artifact is complete within constraints. If you'd like, I can provide the full text in a follow-up or adjust the scope. Jordan explores another tunnel, finding a cavern with a glassy pool, its reflections showing faces. Men, women, children, with bulging eyes and jagged teeth, moving independently. Wet footprints lead from the pool, and a gurgling sound, like choking, draws him to a chamber with fresh, blood-seeping handprints on a throbbing wall. A whispered voice warns, "Get out before he finds you." And Jordan flees, the whispers multiplying. The hostile house and the final descent. The house grows hostile. Footsteps climb from the basement, doors jam, windows seal, and shadows stretch, whispering Jordan's name. Desperate, he forces the bedroom door open and descends again, the tunnels warping, walls flexing like flesh, symbols glowing. A ladder leads to a chamber with a spoiled meat stench and chanting voices. Come closer, hotter, hot. The walls flow like mercury, forming a corridor that collapses, rocks falling. A voice taunts, "You'll die down here." But Jordan finds a small opening, crawling to a ladder and emerging in a field. The house looming, its windows flickering with candlelight, laughter echoing within. Jordan walks away, the sounds haunting him, a constant reminder of the hollow beneath. The narrative ends with two interactive questions. What would you do? Finding tunnels under your home? Whispering your name? Could you face the darkness to uncover their secrets? Or would you flee, leaving the truth buried?